Hello! Today we are wrapping up my June reading, and we are also going to do my June haul together. I made this executive decision because I realized that June, let's just talk about it. June was a lot. I don't know, it was not the month for me. I was not thriving. I was not live, laugh, loving. So in terms of my reading, at least. So I don't have as much to say about books I acquired and or books I read as I normally would. So we're just gonna make it one supersized combined episode. So that way we don't have like two kind of like meh videos. We can just have one big conversation together. But before we get to that, we need to thank our sponsor for today's video, which is our pals at Book of the Month. So as you guys know, I have been a longtime user and enjoyer of Book of the Month, which is a great way for you to get really well-priced new release hardcover books in your grubby little hands. If you use the promo code SUNNY, you can get your first month for $9.99, and then after that it's $15 a month, which is an absolutely great price for new releases. They have between 5 and 7 new releases that they offer every month based on, I'm assuming, hundreds of books that they read to decide what they're going to feature. And this month I selected 2 of those choices, which I am excited about. So first of all, I picked The Bodyguard by Catherine Center, which is it's like a fake dating and a bodyguard contemporary romance, which are 2 tropes that I absolutely love. It's also gender swap from the normal bodyguard situation. So normally it's a dude guarding a gal, and this time it is the lady of the pairing who is the bodyguard. So I just thought that this sounded like a lot of fun. These are tropes that I really enjoy, and this hadn't been on my radar, but that's one of the things Book of the Month does, is put new books on your radar. And then the other one I chose was Upgrade by Blake Crouch, because he writes sci-fi like mystery thriller kind of things, and I did not enjoy his first one that I read from him. But what I didn't like about it was the time travel element, and the new one does not have that in it. So I would like to try again with him in a non-time traveling thriller, because I do really like sci-fi thrillers, and I feel like he's one of the most popular people in that genre. So I'm excited to give this a go as well. So these were my 2 picks this month, but you can pick any of the other books that they have selected for the month of July. Like I said, it's $9.99. And I also wanted to talk to you guys about the fact that they have launched a podcast called Virtual Book Tour. First of all, this is a side note. They always send you a bookmark with your book, and I always love looking to see what the little sayings on them is going to be. Take a break from reading to listen to us talk about reading, which I just thought that was kind of cheeky and fun. So Virtual Book Tour is their new podcast that you can stream on Apple or Spotify. It's hosted by 2 members of their editorial team, Brianna Goodman and Jared McFarland. It's actually recorded live in front of an audience at Book of the Month headquarters in New York, which I think is really cool. I really love bookish related podcasts. Hello, I have a bookish related podcast. So I think it's really cool that they are starting this kind of new outlet for you to hear from authors of the books that they are featuring. At the time of this recording, I know that they've interviewed at least 6 authors so far. So if you cannot get enough of bookish related content, which you guys know is definitely me, definitely check out Virtual Book Tour, which you can get on Apple or Spotify. You can go to virtualbooktour.com to learn more. Thank you once again to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video. You can use the code SUNNY to get your first selection for $9.99. Okay, so let's talk about what I read in June and what I bought in June. Both of them are pretty limited. Also, just so you know, Marple has been uber clingy to me since I got back from my trip. I had never left the kitties before, and I think she thought that I abandoned her, so she's been very clingy. So you'll probably see me petting her from out of frame. You may also see the camera jiggling because she is rubbing her sweet little face on the tripod. And you may also hear her meowing because it's her new thing. She just meows and meows and meows. Okay, so in terms of what I read, let's start there, and then let's see, how should we do this? I feel like we can talk about all of my stats and my haul at the beginning, and then I will end with a few books that I didn't talk to you guys about in my mid-month check-in. I really only had 3 books that I wanted to talk to you guys about, and then I also just had a couple of others I can throw in. So maybe we'll start with like stats and haul, and then we can end with a few kind of more in-depth book discussions for things that I really enjoyed. Okay, stats-wise, I read 12 books this month, 6 of which I owned, 6 of which I did not, for a total of 3,141 pages and an average book length of 261 pages, which is much less than my normal. And honestly, if I hadn't read a big doorstopper from Robin Hobb, I'm guessing that that average would probably be something like 100 to 150 pages, because I was reading short, palate cleansing things for the most part. The average age of books that I read was 13 years, and the average amount of time a book had been on my TBR was 1 year. I paid for 25% of the books that I read. The average amount that I paid per book was $3.58. In terms of genre distribution, you can see half of what I read was speculative romance because I was looking for a lot of palate cleansers. I did read 2 mysteries and 1 historical. I ended up calling The Devil in the Dark Water historical fiction because I think that's probably the closest thing genre-wise for it, but it's kind of a mystery. It's got some speculative. It's a kind of a genre mashup, but we'll call it historical fiction for the purposes of these stats. A couple of fantasies. Yeah, pretty skewed towards palate cleansing things for the most part because I was too stressed and tired to read very much. Marple. And then in terms of star rating distribution, actually I had a pretty, in terms of like by the numbers, it wasn't so bad in terms of what ratings I was giving to things. Gave a lot of 3.5 stars, couple below, couple above. I did have 1 5-star book, which we will definitely talk more about, and the average rating I gave this month was 3.66666, which is like a B+-ish. Okay, in terms of physical books that I hauled this month, we're gonna talk about a couple of these in a different section. So, In the Market for Murder by T.E. Kinsey. This I read for the vlog I did where my book twin Meg from Meg with Books picked my reads, and I really enjoyed this one. We're going to talk about it more later. I also hauled The Devil in the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. I actually already had this book in e-form, but I saw her with her copy, and I'm actually glad I did go ahead and do this because just this little mappy thing in the end pages I did find to be pretty helpful. Marble, good God. This cat is driving me crazy. Does anybody want a cat? Sorry, so these end pages I did find to be very helpful in kind of conceptualizing what was going on in the book. I guess I'll go ahead and just tell you guys about this one since I don't think I covered this in my mid-month check-in. If you want my full thoughts, you can see that vlog, which is up. Yes, this vlog is up. And basically, I really enjoyed this. It, I think, will help you enjoy it more if you don't expect it to be like a straight up murder mystery kind of situation. I think that this is probably expectation-wise best described as character-driven historical fiction that has a very heavy mystery element to it and a little bit of speculativeness thrown in. So I think that if you're expecting just a straight up murder mystery in a historical setting, you might be a little bit disappointed. But I think if you expect it to be kind of slow, very character focused, and the mystery to be very slow burn, I think that you'll have a better chance of getting on with this. I definitely did. I think the way that Meg pitched this set me up for the right expectation that you don't really find out. It takes a very long time for there to even be the body that they're going to then solve the murder mystery for. So I think knowing that will help you have the right expectations for this, but I actually really love the characters and I really love the way that the story as a whole ended up kind of coming together. Yeah, it really worked for me. So I gave this 4 stars and I'm glad that I went ahead and grabbed a physical copy of it. And I just really like this overall. Okay, and then maybe I'll talk about a couple of birthday gifts I got from my pal Jess at Jess Owens. She sent me a couple of books I'd had my eye on. So one is Wardrobe Crisis, How We Went from Sunday Best to Fast Fashion by Claire Press. This is a nonfiction book about fast fashion. So I think this will actually be very interesting because this was written, I think, about 5 years ago, and fast fashion has only accelerated since then. So yeah, I have a couple of books still on my TBR related to fashion and clothing, which I find to be kind of funny considering that I am not, in my dress, particularly fashionable, but for some reason I'm fixated on or interested in this topic. So this was a gift. And the other gift she sent me was a Chiltern edition of Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen, which I definitely had my eyes on. So I appreciated her sending me this. I have a couple of other Chiltern editions already, and I would like to get a couple of more that I have my eye on. But these are absolutely beautiful. They have what I would describe as Bible pages. So they're like gilded on the edges, and they're that nice thick paper, and then obviously the covers are beautiful. I think that they also make these Chiltern patterns as just journals, so if you like one of these patterns, there's a chance that there's a blank book that you could write in if you wanted to. So Thank you so much to Jess. That was a very sweet present. I guess on topic of kind of collection editions, I treated myself. I had some points from you guys from my affiliate stuff on Amazon, and I picked up the Barnes & Noble bind up of Death on the Nile, the ABC Murders, and Five Little Pigs. These are sort of like faux leather bound. I have 2 other ones of these. I decided to pick this one up as well. So I have a new bookshelf coming. You could judge me. I judge myself. And I think that these leather bound ones are going to be on that new bookshelf. So I was excited to get this. I have one other collection edition I want to show you, which is the latest cloth bound classics release from Penguin, and that is The Outsider by Albert Camus. I love this pink. And the pink and the red, I'm not totally sure about the combo, but I think it's pretty eye-catching, so like I'm into it. And it kind of is suggesting like an ink blot to me, which given the sort of like existential nature of this particular book, kind of makes sense to me that it's very like psychological. Always excited when we have a new cloth-bound classic in the line for me to get my grubby little hands on. And yeah, excited. There's actually, well, I've got The Turn of the Screw is the next one that's going to come out, and it's on its way to me right now. And then there's all of these ones that are getting released in August. So we'll talk about that once I have my hands on some of them, but I'm excited about that. And then I guess the last 2 I wanted to show you guys were ones that I just got physical copies of. I had previously read e-arcs of these, so I picked up the releases in physical form when they came out. First is The Woman in the Library by Sulari Gentile, which is one of my favorite books of the year. I just think that this is so entertaining. It's hard to explain because I wouldn't argue that this is like the best mystery I've ever read, but it entertained me so well, which is what I want from a murder mystery. And this just completely delivered that. So I definitely wanted to get my hands on a copy of it, as well as Never Coming Home by Kate Williams, which is a And Then There Were None retelling, but YA. So maybe think And Then There Were None meets the Fire Festival, because it's all influencers. And I've seen several of you guys talking about how you've read this on my recommendation and how much you enjoyed it, which warms my heart because I feel like this book is not getting any marketing towards it. And I think it's really high quality. So anyway, check this one out too. So with that, those were my books that I hauled in June, and my net change. So I added 2 books to my TBR that were not read by me, and then I removed 9 books from my TBR for a total change of -7 books. And that means at the halfway point of the year, I am down 17 books. At this point, I have removed 17 books from my overall TBR, and I am shooketh because I don't think I've ever gone this long with those being my stats. I do frankly think talking to you guys about this on the reg is helping me with those numbers. But yeah, that is the haulage. And let's see, I think that means we can start just talking about a few books that I didn't talk about in my mid-month check-in, because I only read, did I read anything after my mid-month check-in when I talked to you guys? Oh, I did read, oh my gosh, what is this book called? How My Boring Life Was Completely Derailed, and I was absolutely railed by 2 big blue alien dudes from outer space. You know, I saw someone talking about it on Twitter, and when I was traveling, I just could not focus on reading, but that was, you know, light enough fare that I could read it, and I read that on a public train, and that was an experience. Yeah. So anyway, let's talk about some other books that I already mentioned kind of at the midway point. So, or I guess I didn't mention these 2, but you guys have already seen the vlog. So The Thursday Murder Club and In the Market for Murder, I would actually put both of these as surprises. So I would say Thursday Murder Club, I was expecting to love, and I would say I enjoyed it. I liked it. I gave this a 3.5 star, which for me is like a B+. So I enjoyed this. I think what surprised me is that it is very British in its humor, or maybe not even its humor, in its references, I think, in a way that typically I can kind of hang with. I really like British humor. I consume a lot of British-based pop culture, so I feel like probably compared to most Americans, I'm pretty good at getting references, but these kind of went a little over my head, and that just kind of surprised me. I've heard from you guys that this is the first book, and a lot of people have said that they think the second book is way better, so I'm definitely open to reading the second second book because I did enjoy this. It reminded me a lot of Midsummer Murders, but like funnier, which is a vibe I'm into. So I would definitely read another one of these, but I was surprised that I didn't love this because I was kind of expecting this was going to be a 4.5 kind of book. So enjoyed, open to continuing in the series, but surprised me that it wasn't like a huge hit. This, In the Market for Murder by T.E. Kinsey, is probably the book of the three that I read for that vlog, based on Meg's recommendations, that I thought was the biggest stretch. Like I wasn't sure how I was going to do with it. And I ended up really, really liking this. I gave this 4 stars, and it's a cozy mystery, which is a little bit of a hard sell for me oftentimes, but this was a version that I totally got on board with. I really loved the dynamic between Lady Hardcastle and her maid. The maid, Florence, I think is her name, is our point of view narrator character, and I think that that is very smart. And what in particular surprised me about this is that the writing at times I would describe as Christie-esque, because what I love about Agatha Christie's writing is how easy breezy it is and how funny and kind of self-aware, and just it has this sort of light bubbly quality to it. And I thought at moments this had that. It was self-aware, it was funny, and it was, I don't know, there was just something that sort of je ne sais quoi X factor to the writing that at moments I was like, this reminds me a lot of Agatha Christie. So I was surprised at how much I love this for a cozy, because like I said, sometimes I have a little hard time kind of getting my groove with those, and this was just great. I will definitely keep going in this series. I heard from you guys that the audio is really great. Meg also recommended that, and it's also on Kindle Unlimited. So if I want to keep reading, I can definitely pick them up as a Kindle Unlimited, ebook if I want to. So yeah, this was a hit. This was surprising to me that it connected so much, and I would definitely keep going in the series. The only other surprise I thought I would mention is Daisy's Decision, and this is an Ice Home book from Ruby Dixon. This book surprised me on several levels, one of which is kind of a spoiler. I mean, I don't know how much you spoil these books, really, but let's just say it's a spoiler in terms of at the end we find out kind of what the last pairings are gonna be, and that surprised me. I wasn't expecting her to go there, and I'm going to be interested to see how that plays out in the next book. The other thing that surprised me about this book is Daisy. So Daisy is a later addition to the cast. I won't get into the specifics of kind of how she arrived at Ice Home, because again, kind of a spoiler, but she has lived a very pampered life, or she was abducted. That's not great, but she was abducted by a Praxian dude who is very rich and is not actually really that attracted to women. But it was expected from his position that he would have a wife, so he acquired this sort of like trophy wife in Daisy, who is this beautiful human, and humans are considered like very exotic. It's pretty dark when you start thinking about all of the implications of it. But anyway, so she has been sort of this trophy wife, but she is longing for connection and for true love and for kids. Like that is really what she wants. And so she ends up at Ice Home, and that doesn't happen for her. She doesn't get her match immediately. The Kui doesn't pair her with anyone. And then something happens that compromises her looks, and she's very depressed about that. And this book, she wasn't very likable, I guess, in previous books. Like, she was fine. I didn't like actively dislike her, but she's not necessarily one of the heroines in the series that I've been like, oh, I can't wait for her book because she seems so great. But I just absolutely loved her. Like, I thought she was by far the strongest part of this book. I love it when Ruby Dixon does this. She did that with Ariana, who in the earlier books you're like, oh my gosh, Ariana, you're so annoying. And then when you get to her book, it turns out she has like generalized anxiety disorder. So like, of course she's being annoying because she doesn't have any of her medicine and she is in this horrifying situation. And so like, I totally loved falling in love with Ariana. I think it's Ariana. I loved falling in love with her and having my preconceptions about her totally turned around. And I felt kind of similarly about Daisy we get from her point of view just how deeply insecure she is, because the only thing she thinks she's good for really is to be pretty. She feels like she's not anymore, so she doesn't really, like, it's her kind of redefining her own self-worth. I wish that had been taken further, and I wish that I liked her hero more. I didn't like the conflict really between them ultimately. He has always, oh god, is his name Ojek? Is that right? He's never been one of my favorite dudes in this scenario. and he didn't really fully win me over. So, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't completely convinced by him, but I was surprised at how much I connected with Daisy and how much I was rooting for her, and actually like cried over some of the things she was going through. So, you know, I was surprised to be crying over a Ruby Dixon book, basically. So that was definitely a surprise. And then the biggest hit, unsurprisingly to anybody who's read this series, is The Golden Fool by Robin Hobb. I am going to say that this is now my second favorite book that I have read in the realm of the Elderling series, and that is because I've only given one other book 5 stars, which is The Mad Ship. The Mad Ship is definitely still my favorite because to me it is a perfect fantasy novel. I guess I could kind of say that about this one too, but I don't know. I feel like somebody could just read The Mad Ship, and yes, they would miss a lot of things, but I think they could still get into a lot of it. I think if you hadn't been following Fitz and the Fool for books, it would be difficult for you to just read this on its own and get into it. But this book made me feel like all of the reading that I've done with Fitz really is finally paying off, because while I've always enjoyed Fitz, I feel like this is more negative towards Fitz than I want it to be. My summation of my feelings here in my head as I'm trying to gather them. I've always enjoyed Fitz. Fitz is a really compelling character. I think if you're gonna be with one character for so long, so deep in their point of view, I think she does a great job of like getting me to care about him. I really love some of the relationship stuff that happened in the first trilogy. He is an absolute dingus when it comes to anything having to do with women, but I find that pretty funny and endearing. He's so blind in some ways and so perceptive in others. I've cried for him. Like the whole Night Eyes of it all is just like, oh. So I've enjoyed Fitz. I love these books. I'm reading, they're so long. All of the series is so long, these books are so long, keeping with it because I enjoy them. But that being said, I so decidedly preferred the Live Ship Traders. I was like, I know everybody loves the Tawny Man trilogy, but am I gonna love it? I don't know. Like, I just don't feel like I've had that same emotional, I don't know what the right word is. I just have not been in it as much with Fitz and the Fool as I was in Live Ship. But this is the book that got me in it to the same degree. Like, I am just all in now on Fitz and the Fool and their relationship. There is this scene in this book between them that just like was fast. It's so hard to talk about this because this is so far into a series, but if you've read these books, this scene where Fitz is really having a reckoning and a confrontation with the Fool about something. I just love the way that whole scene played out. I loved the inciting incident and the tie-in from Live Ship that caused that to come to a head. The Fool cracked me up in that scene. Some of that scene, but like I also just love the dynamic between them in that moment, and this thing of the Fool basically being like, we never had to have this conversation, but you're making us have it. And then and that being true, but then also like, okay, but could you never have had this conversation? I think you were gonna have to have this conversation someday. And just this idea of, I guess I also connected with it because my dad, one of like his words of wisdom to me was always like, there are things that you can say to someone that you can never unsay. And basically that's kind of what the Fool says, is like, we're gonna have this conversation and we're never gonna be able to forget that we had this conversation. So anyway, I just really love that bit. Kettrican I think is super interesting in this. She also has like a really good like my dragons are real dragons moment that I loved. This ends in a very interesting place. I think we're learning a lot of really fascinating things that I think are gonna I'm trying to be sufficiently vague. I don't know. This book just completely worked for me. And like I said, it's the book in this reading that has made every book with Fitz in it prior to this worth it. Like, just to get to this book, those other 4 books I read were worth it. I think I liked Fool's Errand better than it seems like. I know more than Leanna did, it seems like. But also, I really liked sort of like, oh, look, we're getting to know Fitz, like older Fitz, and, time has passed and he's healed and whatever. Like, he's a new person. I did enjoy the last book, but this book has me like all in on this trilogy. I am so all in. I can't wait. I don't know. I just thought that this was so fantastic, and Yeah, these books, it takes a lot for me to read these. Like, it's a lot of energy, but they are so worth it. They're so rewarding. Yeah, I think I can officially say it feels weird saying Robin Hobb's a favorite author just because I've only read one series from her, but I guess we could just look at it as this is my third trilogy I'm reading from her. So I don't know. She's just such a master. I love spending time in these books. Leanna's a great buddy reader, and both of us were like, we have to find out what happens next, because based on the way this ends, I'm like, I gotta keep going. So we're gonna bring our buddy read up from August to July of the final book in the trilogy, because I gotta find out what's going on with these islands and the whole dragon. I have to find out. So we'll find out in July, but this was 5 stars, and this made me more excited to finish the Tawny Man trilogy, and I can more see why people are like, oh, the Tawny Man, like once you get there, man, it's great. So yeah, I'm on the hype train now, and I can't wait to finish the trilogy. So I think that will do it for my sort of weird combo reading wrap up and haulage for the month of June. June was just a month of a lot of I just couldn't focus very well. And also I think I've discovered that when I travel, I am very tired. I also get motion sickness, it turns out now. So love that for me from the medicines that I'm on. So I just wasn't able to focus and read on vacation the way I normally would. So I just didn't get that much reading done compared to my normal output, but I clearly did have some things that I really loved that I read in June, and we'll see how July goes. I think I'm slowly getting my reading mojo back a little bit as I unwind. So thank you once again to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video. You can check out Virtual Book Tour, which is their podcast on Apple and Spotify. Definitely check that out. And you can also get your first month for $9.99 with the code SUNNY. And after that, it's $15 a month. So you should definitely think about checking that out. And thanks once again to them for sponsoring. So I think that will do it for me. Definitely let me know how your month of June went. I feel like I've seen a lot of people saying like June was not the month for reading. So whatever's going around, let me know if that impacted you too. And yeah, I think that will do it for me. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below, and I think that will do it. Hope you're having an absolutely lovely day today, and I will just talk to you soon. Bye!